This is Cherokee Ronnie back at you with another informational video. Today is the pros and cons of wheel spacers. Well, the only pros that you get with wheel spacers is stances your vehicle out and it makes it look pretty badass. There's not really any other pros about it. This makes it a little bit wider, so you're a little bit more stable, I guess you could say. Now the cons are you have more lug nuts to deal with. You got to put the wheel spacer on, put your 5 lug nuts. We're talking about a Jeep here. Put your 5 lug nuts on, then put your wheel on. You got to make sure you get your wheel spacers to spec with a torque wrench. And what I like to do after I get my wheel spacers, put them on, I like to use red Loctite. I know a lot of people is like, oh, you can't use red Loctite. You never get it off. You can get red Loctite to break. I've done it. I've got them on mine. I put red Loctite on them, tighten them to spec. I check them every once in a while when I rotate my tires. That's another thing that comes with wheel spacers is maintenance. You got to make sure you get them tight, and you got to make sure you keep an eye on them when you first put them on, because it will be a disaster if you install one wrong and don't get it tight, because your whole wheel will fly off, and it will probably scare you to death and cause problems and damage your vehicle and could kill you. It can also damage another person's vehicle. Now the wheel spacers that I run are Spider Track, I think it's what it is, Spider Tracks or something like that. They are aluminum. Now, they are hub-centric. That's the best wheel spacer you can get. My opinion, do not go over 3 inches. I'm talking about for a Jeep Cherokee, I would not go over 3 inches. Now, a lot of people say, well, I heard wheel spacers cause your ball joints to wear out faster than your wheel bearings. I've been running wheel spacers for a year, going on a year and a half. My ball joints are just fine. My wheel bearings are fine. I've not seen any wear. I'm sure it puts a little bit of strain on it, but you have a lot of these guys running their mouth, and they're like, "Oh, wheel spacers put strain on there." You get a back spacing wheel, like you can get like a wide wheel off the internet that half of these Jeep owners are running. It puts the same amount stress on your wheel bearing and ball joints as the wheel spacer does. But I don't recommend going over 3 inches. I run 2 inches. I run 2 inches and something. I forget the other thing, but we're just going to say 2 inches. That's a good place to start. It puts it out there, makes it look good. When I take my fender flares off, my whole wheel sticks out. So it gives it that good look when you take your fender flares off, and it gives you that fat look when you have your fender flares on, because I hate when you, I have aftermarket wheels. I have plenty aftermarket wheels, but I hate when you put a lift on a Jeep and you got to run fender flares. I got to have an inspection sticker down here, so I got to run fender flares, and your Jeep looks real skinny and your fender flares stick out. So the way I fix it is put spacers on it, and it gives it that fat look. But now another thing people ask about spacers, just put bigger tires on my Jeep. I'll put wheel spacers on there and I'll keep it from rubbing. Yes and no. Yeah, it'll set the wheel out far enough where it won't rub the inside of the fender well and the outside. The thing you got to worry about, it rubbing the fender flare. If you have a fender flare, you got to worry about it rubbing the fender flare on the outside and rubbing on the inside of the fender flare. If you don't run fender flares, you might have a problem with it rubbing the corner by the door, like where your fender is, at the bottom of your fender on the outside. It could hit that. You might have to trim that back. Or it could hit the front of your fender down there, like on the front part where your bumper meets. It could hit that. So it doesn't solve your issue really on rubbing. Now, if you're wheeling hard, when you're running wheel spacers, if you're hitting mud holes pretty hard, like fast and hard, you might want to slow down a little bit, because I've seen a guy have 2-inch wheel spacers, hit a mud hole hard as he could, and it just broke the tie rods off, because you got a wider stance. Now, I have a problem in the rain where I have a wider stance than everybody else. When it rains, it will pull me this way and this way, because the road is actually wore. If you noticed on main roads, they have tracks in them where there's war. And I'm outside those tracks, so the rain kind of wants to pull me. Now, don't go buy eBay spacers or Amazon spacers. Those are junk. Get you a high quality brand like Spider Tracks, like I have. I think that's the name. I'm pretty sure that's the name. Get some Rough Countries, and there's some other high brands out there. And make sure they're hub centric. A lot of the cheap eBay brands will actually crack, bust, and etc. They're just junk. I've actually seen the studs break off on those. So here's some tips on when you put a wheel spacer on. I'll have a future video that I'll take mine off and put it back on just to show you how to do it. But when you put wheel spacers on, make sure they're hub centric, they're a quality brand. Make sure you get your wheel spacer tight with red Loctite, and then you want to put your wheel on and tighten it to spec, and you should be all right. And some people say check it every 200 miles, like 3 times, but I waited 5,000 miles because I use red Loctite, and I really torqued on mine. And when I rotate my wheels, I check them, and they seem to be tight. I've not had a problem with them. I've not had a problem with them wobbling or anything like that. But that seems to be doing pretty good. Like I said, don't buy the cheap ones because they tend to be junk. Yeah, it probably does put a little bit more strain on your ball joints and your wheel bearings, just a little bit. And if you're concerned that much about it, when you buy a deep dish wheel and a wide wheel, it has the same effect. So really, you're not getting away from it when people is like, stop wasting money on wheel spacers. Buy rims. It's a lot better. Not really, because it still has the same effect on the rim. So that's 2 things to keep in mind. I already have aftermarket rims. Why would I go out and buy more aftermarket rims when I got, all kinds of aftermarket rims? Yeah, I know a lot of people use wheel spacers because they're running 33s and 1250s, and they're wider and they're still revving a little bit. So that's what we was talking about earlier. So there's not really pros to a wheel spacer, just other than it gives you a wider stance, more stable, and I don't know why, motion with everything, and that's about it really. And it looks good, and all the cons that we talking about. So I don't know. My tip is to you, if you want to run wheel spacers, go ahead. Like I said, do not go over 3 inches. I would not even run a 3-inch spacer. That is ridiculous. I'd go with 2 inches, or if you just want it to set out a little bit, go with a 1 inch. Make sure you use red Loctite, and I don't see any harm in it. And like I said, I've been running mine for a year and a half. I've been doing just fine. So I actually have experience with wheel spacers, and I've not had a problem with them. I wheeled with wheel spacers, and I've not had any studs break like everybody said. So make sure you keep that in mind. I hope this video was a good tip for you guys. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe down below and hit the little bell button so you know every time I upload a video. I do have some future videos. We're going to be starting on the old Project Jeep. First, we're taking the Chrysler 8 1/4, and we're going to you might as well say refurbish it. You wouldn't want to call it a rebuild. I guess you could call it a rebuild. We're going to go ahead and put brand new brake cylinders in there, new brakes, get it all cleaned up, new fluid, make sure all the rear end gears are good for springtime when we go to put it under the Jeep. So that will be probably 4 or 5 videos right there, because I try to keep videos around 15 to 19 minutes long. I don't want to go any longer than that because I don't want you guys to get bored. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So we're going to tackle this project one thing at a time. I don't want my videos being all scrambled up. Make sure you go check out treadright.com. Their link will be in the description. My email's in the description. My Snapchat's in the description. And my Instagram. Make sure you go follow me on social media. And go look me up on Facebook. I have cherokee.ronnie on Facebook. Make sure you go follow that. Trying to get that one built up. If you follow me on my social medias, people, you'll see what I'm doing that day. Then having to wait for a video to come out, because I could post a picture, say I got a rear end build done. I post it on Instagram that day. You might not see the video till Monday or Friday. So that's just another way to get it, like a little sneak peek. But anyway, I'm Cherokee Ronnie. Stay dirty, my friends.
It's nuts.
About time we got some snow to play in.